In the first quarter, Arkansas looks to set the tone. Quarterback KJ Jefferson is at running back. He takes the carry and throws downfield to Ty Washington, who runs down the side before getting pushed out of bounds. Razorbacks are moving the ball nicely. Jefferson looks to throw, tosses the ball to A.J. Green for an Arkansas touchdown. Razorbacks went 75 yards over 7 plays in the opening drive. Arkansas up 7-0. Razorbacks defense came out with just as much intensity. On the Gators opening drive, quarterback Graham Mertz sends a screen to Ricky Pearsall, but cornerback Jalen Braxton rips the ball out of his hands and runs 33 yards to the house for a touchdown. Razorbacks up by 14 within 4 minutes of the game. Florida looks to answer. Mertz has time, throws to freshman Trey Wilson, who catches the ball in the end zone for a touchdown. Arkansas now up 14-7. Razorbacks look to get more points on the board. 3rd and 8, Jefferson throws, and the ball gets tipped away by Miguel Mitchell. Gators get a stop and the ball back. Florida's offense has found a rhythm, and it's the dynamic duo that strikes again. Mertz sends a dime right into the hands of Wilson, who takes it for a touchdown. Florida ties the game at 14. In the third quarter, game is tied at 17. Mertz loads and fires downfield to Ricky Pearsall, who rumbles his way into the end zone for a touchdown. Florida takes the lead for the first time in the game. They go up 23-17. In the fourth quarter, Arkansas in great field position. Jefferson fakes the carry and decides he's going to take this one in himself. Runs 25 yards into the end zone for a touchdown. Razorbacks back up 30-26. Florida responds quick, driving down the ball nicely. Trevor Etienne gets the carry and he runs to the house for a touchdown. Gators now up 33-30. Razorbacks get the field goal and tie the game at 33. Florida gets the ball and has the chance to win the game. Trey Smack with the kick, and it's wide. The teams go into overtime. Arkansas wins the coin toss and gives Florida the ball first. They settle for a field goal. Razorbacks now 1st and 5. They need a touchdown to win the game. Jefferson throws to Tyrone Bolton in the end zone for a touchdown. And after a back and forth battle, the Razorbacks beat the Gators 39-36 in the swamp for the first time in program history. Head coach Billy Napier says he hopes the team learns from the adversity.